Revealed, how a single question from a vulnerable black girl changed a billionaire's life forever. In the heart of Atlanta, where the streets were alive with the sounds of hope and hardship, 12-year-old Amara stood against the warmth of a summer sun. The air buzzed with energy, thick with stories of struggle, yet brimming with dreams still waiting to take flight. Living in a small apartment with her single mother, who spent her days serving coffee and flipping burgers at the local diner, Amara knew that laughter was as essential as breathing. They shared that laughter, despite the shadows of bills lurking at the edges of their lives. On this bright day, the annual community event had pulled together families, friends, and even those who usually lived beyond the reach of the kids playing on the corners. Amara watched as vendors shouted, music erupted, and smiles spread across faces that knew both pain and joy. Her heart raced with undeniable curiosity, a spark in her chest as she darted through the crowd, and then, she spotted him: Curtis Bennett. The billionaire whose name loomed large in her neighborhood's whispered conversations. He wore a slick suit, exuding entitlement and success in a world where many felt invisible. Yet, his presence didn't just draw admiration, it felt more like a heavy weight, a stark reminder of the divide that separated her community from the world he represented. "Why doesn't he really help us?" Amara asked her friend, her voice thick with innocence and frustration. Whispers filled the air, people muttered about his donations that always felt like mere gestures, like band-aids slapped on deeper wounds. With her heart hammering, Amara decided to confront the man cloaked in privilege. She approached Curtis, her small frame trembling, but her gaze unwavering. "What do you do when your money doesn't help people like us?" she asked, her voice steady despite every tremor in her hands. Time stood still. The crowd around them fell silent, her words slicing through the chatter like a hot knife cutting butter. Curtis's facade cracked, revealing confusion and discomfort in his eyes. No one had asked him such a direct question before, and for a moment, he was no longer the untouchable billionaire. Instead, he found himself staring into the soulful eyes of a child who asked simply about dignity and respect. Her question hung in the air, mingling with the noise of the festivities. Curtis felt an unexpected twist in his chest, a knot of emotions he long buried beneath corporate success. Memories surfaced of sacrifices made in his own childhood, the echoes of laughter fading into hard realities. This girl, with her honest inquiry, had challenged everything he thought he knew about wealth and responsibility. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As he stood there, vulnerability coursing through him, Curtis realized he stood at a crossroads. Was he merely a number in a bank account, or could he be someone who truly connected and made lives better? Amara's question echoed in his mind. It began as an innocent inquiry but quickly morphed into a heavy challenge that would shape his ideology. As Amara stepped back, watching the billionaire grapple with a reality he had so far ignored, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Would he dive into the depths of empathy that she longed for him to discover? The whispers in the crowd turned to murmurs of anticipation, the community sensing a shift. Would Curtis Bennett finally understand that his greatness could extend beyond his fortune? Would he dare to embrace the change each of those desperate souls needed? The story was just beginning, and the air hummed with possibilities. Curtis blinked, his mind racing as Amara's question ricocheted inside him. The colorful festival around them faded into a blur, the laughter and music muffled, as if the world knew something monumental was unfolding. He fought to regain composure, unsure how to respond, unsure of how to even articulate what this little girl had unearthed within him. He took a deep breath and glanced back at Amara, the sheer determination in her eyes unnerving yet inspiring. I don't know," he finally admitted, his voice low but filled with newfound clarity. The words felt heavy on his tongue, somewhere between honesty and shame. The crowd was still, their attention now fully on the two of them. Amara's friends began to gather, eyes wide, their faces a mix of anticipation and surprise. Curtis felt the weight of their expectations, like everything hinged on this moment. He had always been strong in front of people, but now, surrounded by the vulnerability these children displayed, everything felt different. Amara, emboldened by his admission, pressed on. What if you tried harder? Gave more than just money? Got involved? We need more than donations, I mean real help, real change. Her words were like arrows, hitting the bullseye of his conscience. The thought took root in Curtis's mind, challenging beliefs he had held as sacrosanct. Could he really step outside of the comfortable walls he had built? What if he did more than write checks? What if he actually listened to the stories that flooded through the very streets he had often overlooked? Listen, Amara, he started, the sincerity in his eyes locking onto hers. I promise you, I'll think about it. This what you're saying is not something I take lightly. A hush passed over the crowd, as if they were holding their collective breath. Amara's heart soared. Here was a glimpse of hope, a hint that maybe things could change. She glanced around and saw smiles beginning to spread. Was Curtis really going to take this seriously? Before she could respond, a voice broke through the moment. It was an older man from the community, his face lined with years of struggle yet warmed by genuine kindness. Curtis, he called, his voice resonating with a weight of history, we need more than promises. We need your actions to speak louder than words. We need you to show us you really care. The challenge in his tone filled Curtis with urgency. There was power in the community's resilience, in the way they gathered behind a child's question. It awoke something long forgotten within him, a desire to matter, to truly make a difference. I'll come back, Curtis blurted, the words spilling from him before he had a chance to weigh them. I'll come back, and I want to meet with any of you who can share your stories. I want to understand better. Amara's eyes sparkled with hope, and the crowd erupted in cautious applause. Was this a beginning, or just another empty promise? Months of waiting for action stretched ahead of them, but something was undeniably shifting in the atmosphere. Curtis stepped back, feeling the warmth of the moment. As he walked away, he could still feel the weight of Amara's question in his chest, pushing him toward a direction he hadn't considered before. He had taken the first step, but the path forward felt daunting. As Amara turned to her friends, she felt light, bursting with excitement and uncertainty. What if he really means it? She whispered to them. Her words hung in the air, and the future felt fragile yet brimming with possibilities, but the real question remained, was Curtis ready to confront the challenges that lay ahead? And could the people of Atlanta truly believe in the change they so desperately needed? As they stood amidst the celebrations, anticipation crackled like electricity, setting the stage for what was to come. Curtis walked away from the festival, the sounds of laughter and music fading behind him. He could still hear Amara's voice echoing in his mind, her words igniting a fire he had long buried. He shook his head, trying to dispel the uneasy feeling of commitment that now resided deep in his gut. What had he just promised? It felt like he had opened a door he couldn't close again. That he climbed into his car and sat in silence for a moment. The leather seats felt foreign, the luxury of the interior starkly contrasting the rawness he had just witnessed. How had it come to this? He was a billionaire, a man who had built his life around success and wealth. Yet here was a child, reminding him that real wealth was far from measured in dollars. Focus, he muttered to himself, forcing his hands to grip the steering wheel tightly. But how could he focus when expectations loomed over him? He pulled out his phone, scrolling through emails filled with deals, reports, and another world away from those hopeful faces back at the festival. In that moment, their smiles felt more genuine than any business transaction ever could. He took a deep breath and drove toward home, but his mind drifted back to the festival. Faces blurred together, but Amara stood out like a beacon. He felt a stirring within him, one that was often drowned out by phone calls and meetings. Curiosity fought with doubt. Was he really ready to dive into the stories of people he had once seen as those in need rather than his community? When he finally reached his mansion, it felt colder than usual. The grand halls echoed with emptiness. He switched on the lights, illuminating the rooms adorned with artistic masterpieces and the scent of fresh flowers. Yet, surrounded by opulence, an unsettling emptiness took root. Curtis plopped onto the sofa and stared at the wall, recalling the older man's words. Actions speak louder than promises. His determination strengthened. He would do it. But how? He couldn't waltz in pretending he knew it all. He hadn't lived their struggles. He needed to listen, to understand, to actually experience the lives he'd only observed from a distance. Curtis grabbed a notebook from the side table, the pages blank like a fresh canvas. He started to write, listen. Learn. Engage. Each word felt like a commitment, a stepping stone towards something bigger than himself. But the question still haunted him: where would he find the courage to start? He planned to contact Amara. Connect with her, hear her story, not just the words she spoke in front of others, but the deeper truths that fueled her concern. He grabbed his phone again, scrolling through the contacts. But just as he was about to click on her number, a text message buzzed in. It was from his assistant. Meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. with investors. Big opportunities. You'll want to be prepared. The message felt like a weight crashing down, trying to pull him back into the orbit of wealth and influence that had long since filled his life with meaninglessness. As the excitement of his pledge began to fade under the gravity of urgent business, Curtis realized he was at a crossroads. He could go back to his old life, but then what about Amara? What about the people who needed him? The uncertainty tingled in the pit of his stomach. He was stepping into uncharted territory. What if they didn't want him to help? What if he was more of a hindrance than a solution? Curtis took a deep breath. Tomorrow held promise, and perhaps the beginning of something transformative, but first, he needed to face the most challenging question of all: could a man like him truly change a system he had long benefited from? With that unresolved tension, he felt the pull of possibility and dread swirl within him, and tomorrow felt like a test he wasn't quite ready to take. He stared at the notebook again. With a determined flick of his wrist, he wrote, "This is just the beginning." The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting stripes across the luxurious bedroom. Curtis woke with a start, the promise he made echoing in his mind. He stretched his arms and closed his eyes for a moment, trying to hold on to the fleeting threads of resolve from the night before. Today was the day he would begin to change. He dressed quickly in a tailored suit, but the usual comfort of the fabric felt different. There was no more armor against the world, it felt almost suffocating. He took one last glance in the mirror, catching a glimpse of the man he was: a successful businessman, yes, but also the man who had made a promise to a child. His phone buzzed, breaking his moment of introspection, and the reminder of his meeting loomed. With a frustrated sigh, he grabbed the phone, tapping through reminders about stock reports and presentations. But as he glanced at the clock, the heaviness of business obligations tugged at his chest. It was time to shift his focus. He couldn't let it drown out his commitment. Curtis arrived at the office, the usual bustle greeting him with the cold efficiency of corporate life. Voices buzzed around him, each one focused on profit margins and quarterly numbers. For the first time, he felt like an outsider watching a play, disconnected from each scene unfolding before him. He waved distractedly to colleagues, but his mind was already racing toward Amara and what he hoped to learn from her. The investors' meeting went as expected, discussions thick with financial jargon and capital gains. But as they spoke, Curtis found himself drifting away, imagining the festival, the light in Amara's eyes, and the resilience in the community he had neglected for too long. Each word became less meaningful as he counted the minutes until he could reach out to her. "Curtis?" The voice of his assistant snapped him back to reality. "Are you with us?" He nodded, forcing a smile. "Let us continue." But his heart wasn't in it. He wanted to break free from these shackles of expectation. Once the meeting wrapped up and the investors left, Curtis breathed a sigh of relief. The building felt oppressive, the walls closing in as he made his way to the exit. He needed a change of scenery. He needed to find Amara. He grabbed his phone and called her. The phone rang, each beep a reminder of his urgency, but uncertainty crept in. Would she even want to hear from him? Hello. Amara's voice broke through, bright yet cautious. Amara. It's Curtis. I wanted to talk. He hesitated. How could he possibly convey the whirlwind in his mind? Mr. Curtis. Her tone shifted. About what? About the festival. About helping. His words stumbled as he wrestled with his thoughts. I want to understand your community, your story. Can you help me? There was a pause on the line, and he felt a flicker of hope mingled with fear. I can, but it won't be easy, she finally said. Curtis could almost hear the weighing of her trust before she added, Are you sure you're ready for this? Those words hung in the air, heavy with reality. He wasn't just embarking on a mission, he was stepping into a world that challenged everything he thought he knew. I need to be, he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. Meet me at the community center tomorrow at noon then. I'll guide you through. The call ended, and Curtis stood frozen for a moment. A thrill surged through him, desperation fighting with excitement. Tomorrow, he'd step into an unknown world, holding the hope that maybe, just maybe, he could change both himself and the lives around him, but as he looked out the window, watching the busy city below, one question lingered in his mind: could someone like him really bring about change, or was he simply a dreamer in a suit? Curtis had made a promise, and tomorrow would test if he was brave enough to keep it. The day arrived with the sun shining brighter than Curtis anticipated, filling him with a mix of excitement and dread. He stood in front of the community center, his heart pounding. This wasn't a boardroom, there were no polished shoes or expensive suits. For the first time, he felt the weight of his privilege, and it didn't sit easily. As he took a step inside, his senses were assaulted by the mingling sounds of laughter, chatter, and the distant clanging of metal pans from the kitchen. The walls were adorned with bright murals, showcasing the neighborhood's vibrant spirit. Children played in one corner, their energy infectious. Curtis felt himself relax just a little, but the anxiety of his purpose gnawed at him. Curtis. Amara's voice drew his attention. She stood at the far end, waving him over with her warm smile. She looked so at home here, her presence a stark contrast to the corporate veneer he wore. I'm glad you came, she said as he approached. Thanks for having me, he managed, feeling like an imposter amidst the genuine joy radiating from her and the people around them. Are you ready? She asked, her eyes searching his. He nodded, though he felt anything but ready. What do we do first? Let us meet some of the families, she replied, guiding him through the bustling community center. Each step felt like an initiation. She introduced him to parents and children who greeted him with a mixture of curiosity and caution, and each handshake felt heavy with unspoken stories. As they walked, Amara shared bits of her own life, how she grew up here, faced challenges he couldn't begin to comprehend, and yet, she thrived. Curtis listened intently, realizing how different their worlds were. Her resilience was both inspiring and humbling. It made him think about his own struggles, how trivial they paled in comparison. Suddenly, a small girl with wide, innocent eyes approached them. Mr. Curtis, she started, her voice soft yet brave. Do you really want to help us? The honesty in her question caught him off guard. Yes, I do, he said, kneeling to her eye level. I want to understand and make things better for everyone here. She tilted her head, searching his face for sincerity. But it's not just about money, right? He hesitated, caught off guard by the depth of her words. Just moments before, he was thinking like a businessman. No, it's about more than that. It's about connection, he finally responded earnestly. She nodded slowly as if accepting his answer, then took her mother's hand, looking back at him with a small smile before they disappeared into a larger crowd. Curtis stood rooted to the spot, realizing that this was just a glimpse into the complex heart of a community. He felt the foundations of what he had believed start to shake. It wasn't just a project, it was personal. When he turned to Amara, her eyes sparkled with a mix of pride and concern. That's what we need from you. Not just a handout, but a genuine commitment. I'm beginning to see that, he admitted, heart racing with the enormity of it all. What do you want to change? She pushed gently. That hit him like a wave. He didn't have a solid answer. He felt a sense of vulnerability, but in that moment, he also discovered liberation. It was scary, but he was finally ready to face the truth. Curtis took a deep breath, looking around at the families who welcomed him. I want to help build opportunities. I want to learn from you all. Amara smiled, but there was something deeper in her expression. It'll take time, and it's not going to be easy. He nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I'm not afraid of hard work. But as he replied, another question formed in his mind. What did that truly mean for him? Today was just the beginning. He hadn't just entered a community, he stepped into his own vulnerability, ready to confront everything he had avoided. Would he find the strength to face the uncomfortable truths about himself? As doubt crept in, he glanced at Amara. Her unwavering determination connected with his changeable spirit, and he wondered, could they uncover together the deeper truths about their lives that could lead to real transformation? Curtis felt a tight knot in his stomach as he ventured deeper into the community center, each interaction peeling back layers of himself he hadn't realized were so deeply buried. Amara led him toward a small multipurpose room where various activities were in full swing: art projects, dance classes, and a group of students practicing for the upcoming debate competition. Look at them, she said, a smile illuminating her face. They're so full of life and hope. They just need a little support to shine even brighter. He watched the children, some concentrating hard on their tasks while others laughed and joked. They were so at ease in their skin. It struck him that he felt like an outsider in that moment, like a visitor from another planet. The contrast was stark, almost painful as he focused on their carefree joy against the heaviness in his own chest. What if I don't have what it takes? He blurted out, more to himself than to Amara. The words surprised him. They felt like an admission of defeat, a fear he hadn't wanted to confront. Amara turned to him, tilting her head with concern. You're already here, Curtis. That's a start. Just being willing to learn and listen is more than a lot of people do. Her words offered a tiny flicker of hope. He watched a few kids at a nearby table giggling as they crafted colorful paper flowers. One boy was explaining his design meticulously to two friends, his hands flying as he gestured. There was such creativity there, a spark that reminded him of his own childhood. Did you ever think about how, growing up, we might have taken our joys for granted? He asked, a little embarrassed. Absolutely, Amara responded, her voice steady. But we also used those joys to uplift ourselves. To find strength in community. That's what I see in these kids. A smile goes a long way. Curtis nodded, feeling the warmth of her belief seep into his doubt. Maybe he didn't have to carry the entire burden alone. Maybe this wasn't about fixing everything, it was about joining a collective journey. Before he could dwell on that thought, Amara waved over a pair of young teens. Meet Zoe and Malik. They're leading the debate team this year. Hi. Zoe's energy was contagious as she introduced herself. Are you the new guy who wants to help us? Yeah. That's me, Curtis replied, a grin breaking through his anxiety. Great. We need all the support we can get, Malik chimed in, his enthusiasm infectious. Are you ready to see how our team wins? I'm ready to learn from you both, he responded, feeling lighter than he had in hours. Together they brainstormed ideas to reach more kids and discuss pressing issues in their community. Curtis felt alive, the fear he had earlier replaced with bubbling excitement. What was it going to take to encourage these kids to thrive? As the conversation flowed, Amara stepped back, watching Curtis interact with confidence. It warmed her heart to see him embrace the spirit of the community, even if just for a moment. However, amidst the laughter and inspiration, Curtis's phone vibrated ominously in his pocket, a reminder of the corporate world lurking just outside. His heart sank as he pulled it out. A message flashed, a reminder of deadlines, meetings, and responsibilities that loomed over him like a cloud. "Everything okay?" Amara asked, noticing his sudden change in demeanor. He hesitated. "Yeah, just work stuff." The words came out heavy. "Curtis, don't let them drown out this experience. You're right where you need to be." Her concern felt genuine, and as he looked at her, a complicated swirl of emotions settled within him. What would he be sacrificing to immerse himself in this world? Can I really balance both? He muttered to himself. Amara's gaze felt like a lighthouse piercing through his confusion. "You'll never know unless you try." Curtis's heart raced as the pull of both worlds sounded like a distant drumbeat in his ears. Could he redefine success? He turned to the kids, united in their hopes, noticing the spark of purpose igniting within him. Suddenly, everything felt at stake. Could he forge a life thread that connected his past to a future he wasn't ready to embrace? And as they began planning the next debate topic, a question emerged in his mind more pressing than the deadline staring at him from his phone. How far was he willing to go for this community, and what would it mean for his own identity? With a fiery determination and lingering confusion, Curtis knew this journey was just beginning. But the real transformation ahead? That was still shrouded in uncertainty. The energy in the room shifted as Curtis settled into the brainstorming session with Zoe and Malik. Their chatter filled the air, but a subtle whisper of anxiety lingered in the back of his mind, like the reminder of rain clouds gathering just out of sight. "Okay, let us get started," Zoe exclaimed, flipping open her notebook. She was all enthusiasm, her pencil scratching excitedly against the paper. "First idea, what if we focus on mental health? It's something we all deal with but often don't talk about." Curtis felt a wave of admiration for her passion. "That's brilliant," he said, picturing how empowering it would be for the kids to address such a crucial topic. Malik nodded in agreement. "Yeah. We could even have a workshop where we teach techniques for stress relief. Like mindfulness or journaling. What do you think?" The idea of sharing personal stories struck a chord within him. He thought of the moments when he felt lost, overwhelmed with expectations, moments he hadn't allowed himself to revisit since burying them under the weight of ambition. "What about including an open mic session?" Curtis suggested, his heart fluttering with the fear of vulnerability. "You know, where anyone can share their thoughts or experiences. It might encourage more kids to speak up." Both Zoe and Malik exchanged looks of excitement, and for a moment, Curtis felt the tension ease. He had crossed from uncertainty to contribution, and it felt liberating. As they chatted about logistics, Curtis' phone vibrated again, more aggressively this time. He glanced at the screen, another notification, the meeting time creeping closer. The corporate world was encroaching, reminding him of unfinished tasks and looming deadlines. "Curtis?" Amara's voice broke through. "You okay?" He looked up, meeting her concerned eyes. "Yeah, just stupid work stuff." "Don't let that weigh you down," she encouraged gently. "You're part of something bigger now. Focus on these kids. They need you." Her words stirred something in him. He felt as if he was at a crossroads, each path promising different rewards. Would he choose the predictable lifestyle clinging to corporate status, or embrace a less defined yet profoundly rewarding journey rooted in community? The debate team meeting ended with laughter and a plan that bubbled with potential. They moved to a circle for a group photo, and Curtis leaned in unexpectedly, feeling alive. Smiles stretched wide as Zoe and Malik threw their arms around him. "Welcome to the team." They cheered. In that very instant, he could almost forget the corporate pull, the tension of two worlds colliding. "Thanks, guys. I'm excited," he responded, his voice louder than he intended, passion infusing his words. But just as the moment registered, the reality of his responsibilities drummed back to the surface. This newfound exhilaration felt fragile. Could he really hold this spark amidst the other flames of his life? He headed home that evening, his mind racing. The feeling of camaraderie lingered, but shadows danced along the edges of his thoughts. Questions formed like storm clouds in his mind. how would he navigate both worlds? Would the thrill of community be enough to replace the recognition of corporate success? That night, as he lay in bed, his thoughts swirled. Images of the kids, their laughter, and the possibilities stretched out like an infinite horizon. But option A, a life dictated by metrics and prestige, loomed close, a specter that refused to fade. The next morning, a notification appeared on his phone. It wasn't from work. It was a message from Amara. Curtis, I've been thinking about your idea. We need to talk about the kids' responses. Let us meet up. His heart raced. He typed back quickly, absolutely. When? As he pressed send, Curtis felt a tug of hope mixed with anxiety. What new revelations awaited him in this unfolding journey? Could a single encounter, like the ones he'd begun to embrace, lead him to define a success that truly resonated with his soul? The answers were unclear, but Curtis knew more questions were on the horizon. What if a conversation with someone he had yet to meet could turn everything upside down? The cafe buzzed with energy as Curtis arrived for his meeting with Amara. He spotted her at a corner table, her eyes bright with determination, even more captivating than he remembered. It was moments like these that reminded him why he was stepping into this new world. He approached with a blend of excitement and uncertainty. "Hey, Curtis." She greeted, her smile infectious. "I'm really glad you were open to this." "Me too. I want to hear your thoughts," he replied, sitting down. The scent of fresh coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the hum of conversation. His heart raced, partly from the caffeine-filled atmosphere and partly from the anticipation of their discussion. Amara opened her notebook, filled with notes and colorful doodles. "So, I've been thinking a lot about what we discussed. I believe those kids need more than just workshops, they need to feel heard. Like they truly matter." Curtis nodded, the idea resonating with him. "Absolutely. That's why I suggested the open mic. It's not just about the techniques. They need a platform." Suddenly, Amara leaned in, her expression shifting. "I spoke with a girl from the debate team after last night's meeting. Her name is Milani. She has something important on her mind, something about her story that she is afraid to share." Curiosity sparked inside Curtis. "What do you mean? What story?" Amara took a deep breath. "Milani told me that she feels invisible sometimes. She struggles with anxiety, and she thinks no one understands her. But she has a desire to express herself, especially in front of her peers." That one statement struck Curtis like a bolt of lightning. A wave of empathy washed over him. How many kids felt like Milani? How many additional stories remained untold? And how can we help her feel seen? Amara paused, her brow furrowed as if contemplating a profound truth. What if we encourage her to take the mic? Maybe we set up a special courage session amping up the support around sharing our vulnerabilities. It could show her that she is not alone and that her voice matters. The notion hung in the air, powerful and fragile. "You're right," Curtis said slowly, feeling the weight of the idea. "But we should be careful. For a lot of kids, opening up about their struggles won't be easy, and we have to create a safe space. They should feel free to tell their stories without judgment." Amara's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Yes. We need to reassure them that sharing is a sign of strength, not weakness. And still have fun, to lighten the mood." The conversation flowed naturally, ideas blossoming like wildflowers. Curtis imagined the session, kids standing before their peers along with laughter and warmth surrounding them. At that moment, another notification buzzed on his phone, but he ignored it, the corporate noise fading away. Here, at this table, he felt purpose enlivening him, but just as hope began to take root, doubt crept in again. What if we fail? What if Milani, or the others, struggle even to speak? What if we expose their pain without providing the right support? Amara placed her hand reassuringly on his. "It's a risk, yes. But the real danger would be to do nothing. Let us focus on their growth, supporting them every step of the way." Curtis let her words sink in. Could he really commit to this path, helping those kids face their fears? The moment felt pivotal, as if possibilities were teetering on the edge of something monumental. As they wrapped up their brainstorming, Curtis felt a wave of determination wash over him. This was more than just a project, it was a chance to turn uncertainty into strength for the kids. And about Milani, Curtis said, his heart pounding, what if we encouraged her to help lead the courage session? Think about how empowering that would be for her. Amara's face lit up with realization. That's a brilliant idea. It could unlock so much potential within her and others. With a renewed sense of purpose, they left the cafe, but even as the door swung shut behind them, Curtis felt a prickling sense of fear. Would Milani accept the invitation to share her voice? As they walked side by side, he couldn't shake the feeling that their work was just beginning. What if Milani's story ignited a fire of change that would ripple throughout the entire community? Where would it lead them? The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows on the sidewalk as Curtis and Amara stepped into the cool evening air. The world felt alive with potential, the vibrant colors of twilight mirrored the excitement bubbling inside him. Do you think she'll say yes? Curtis asked, his mind already racing ahead. Considering the logistics of inviting Milani to lead the session, Amara tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I hope so. But even if she doesn't, just knowing we see her might be enough to spark something. Sometimes, that small glimmer of recognition can fuel a fire inside. He liked how Amara thought. It made him feel grounded, as if they truly were on this journey together. The idea of helping kids find their voices had become his guiding star. But the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his heart. It's that pressure to get it right. What if we don't handle it well? You can't control everything, she said softly. But you can create a space where they feel safe. That's a step. They reached the park where they had agreed to meet the kids, the air buzzing with a sense of purpose. Nearby, a group of teens tossed frisbees while others sat on the grass, tuning guitars or chatting animatedly. Curtis felt his heart race. This could be the beginning of something meaningful. As they approached, the laughter and voices melded into a melody of youthful joy. But just as quickly, Curtis noticed a small figure sitting alone on a bench in the corner, fingers nervously picking at the fabric of her jeans. It was Milani. Let's talk to her, Amara suggested, urging Curtis forward. His feet felt heavy, as if anchored by fear and uncertainty. What if his approach scared her away? Hey, Milani. Amara called out gently, moving closer. Mind if we join you? Milani looked up, wide eyes glistening with a mix of surprise and apprehension. Sure I guess. The three of them settled on the bench, and an awkward silence filled the air. Curtis' thoughts raced, he felt like he was about to leap without a parachute. So, we were just talking about something really exciting. What's that? Milani asked, her interest piqued. Curtis took a deep breath. We want to create a unique session where everyone can share their stories. Amara believes it could be a chance for you to share yours and lead it. What do you think? The way Milani's face changed was almost imperceptible at first. There was a mixture of surprise and something deeper, fear, perhaps. Let it? Her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, it doesn't have to be perfect, Amara interjected kindly. Just sharing what you feel could make a world of difference. And you wouldn't be alone. We'd be right here to support you. Curtis looked into Milani's eyes, hoping to convey warmth and understanding. We genuinely believe your story matters, Milani. You're not alone in this. Milani's brow furrowed as she considered their words, uncertainty paired with a flicker of hope. But what if they judge me? They won't. We promise. This is a safe space for everyone, Curtis said, wishing he could take her fear away with his words alone. The honest vulnerability in her eyes gripped his heart. Milani leaned back slightly, her fingers still fidgeting, hesitant but curious. Then she surprised him. Okay, maybe I can try. But what if I freeze? The corners of Curtis' lips curved into a small smile. Then we'll figure it out together. One step at a time, right? As a soft breeze rustled the leaves above them, Milani took a deep breath, visibly contemplating. The tension seemed to dissipate between them. I'll think about it, she said quietly, but there was a spark in her voice as if she was considering the possibilities for the first time. They parted ways that evening with a mix of hope and uncertainty lingering in the air. Curtis couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. As he headed home, he found himself replaying Milani's hesitant smile, her vulnerability echoing in his mind. What if this was just the beginning? The question hung in the air around them as he grasped for the fleeting possibility of transformation. They were stepping into unknown territory now. Where would it lead them all? The sun rose over Atlanta, bathing the community center in a golden light, and Curtis felt a thrill of anticipation ripple through him. Today was the day, a day carved out of uncertainty and doubt, a chance to breathe life into dreams that had flickered in the shadows of his mind. He arrived early, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety, each beat of his heart drumming a mantra of hope. As he entered, familiar sounds embraced him: laughter, chatter, and the soft clinks of paintbrushes against paper. Curtis marveled at the scene before him. Children hustled between tables, their faces lit with joy as they engaged in crafts and games. It was a vivid tapestry of life, and he felt a belonging slowly unfurling inside him. Then Amara appeared, her vibrant energy radiating like sunshine. You made it. Ready for the courage session? She asked, eyes bright. More than ever, he replied, a genuine smile breaking through his earlier apprehension. What's Milani doing? Curtis asked, scanning the room for the quiet girl who had been on his mind. Just then, he spotted her sitting with a small group, fingers gripping her sketchbook, deep in conversation. The weight of her story rested heavily on his heart, and he couldn't help but admire her courage as he imagined her standing in front of the group. She's nervous but excited, Amara said knowingly. We all are. But we need to create this space for her, just like we talked about. Curtis nodded, feeling a rush of determination. Today wasn't just about Milani, it was about every child who felt overlooked, unheard. It was a chance to bring voices to the forefront, voices that mattered. Let's set this up, he said, glancing around the room, seeing how the children interacted, each connection sparking the vibrant community he wanted to nurture. By noon, the community center was transformed into a welcoming space, brightened with colorful streamers and hand-drawn banners celebrating bravery. Curtis was buzzing with nervous energy as he prepared for the event. He glanced at Amara, who was busy arranging chairs into a circle, her focus unwavering. The time had come. Amara gathered everyone, and a calm settled over the room. She smiled at the kids, inviting their trust, and started explaining how today would unfold. Curtis stood beside her, bracing himself. We're here to share our stories, he announced, his voice steady but alive with emotion. Each of you has something special to offer, something that can inspire others. He saw smiles flicker, nervous glances exchanged, but behind the hesitation, he sensed an undercurrent of excitement. Today, we're focusing on what it means to be brave, Amara added, her words weaving through the collective anticipation. And we're so proud of Milani for wanting to lead this part. Milani's face broke into a tentative smile, and Curtis could feel the wave of encouragement ripple through the group. I'll try, she managed, a quiet strength blossoming within her. They all took turns, sharing their stories, carefully unwrapping layers of vulnerability. As they listened, a roar of laughter erupted and soft gasps filled the room. Curtis felt honored to witness these kids harnessing their power, expressing their fears, dreams, and the challenges they faced. Then, as the session progressed, Milani took a step forward. The room hushed, her heart pounding as she stood before them with shared stories burning in her chest. I'm Milani and I sometimes feel alone. I get anxious about talking to people, but I want to change that. This is a safe space, right? The children nodded, encouragement coursing through the room. They were her cheerleaders. I've struggled to be seen, but I'm willing to try, and I hope that when I talk, it helps others feel less lonely, too. Her voice grew steadier with each word, and Curtis felt a surge of pride. He realized that this moment was more significant than anything he could achieve in a corporate boardroom. Here, possibility hung in the air like electricity, real connection surged. When she finished, applause erupted loud and sincere. Milani beamed, and Curtis felt a warmth radiate around him as others began to share their stories, too. This was empowerment unleashed, voices once muted now soaring together, echoing through the space like an anthem. As the session concluded, Curtis felt a bittersweet pang. This larger purpose ignited something within him. He glanced at Amara, whose eyes sparkled with pride, and he knew they were embarking on a journey no one could have imagined. From a simple question to a community's awakening. Several days passed, each moment deepening Curtis's commitment as he engaged with families, listened to their stories, learning the art of true connection. It wasn't easy. Some days felt like stepping into a roaring river, much harder than the structured life he once led. Yet, every encounter filled him with hope and joy. Amara became his constant guide, encouraging him through each new challenge. Together, they expanded their vision, launching programs to empower the youth, enhancing opportunities for those who had previously felt lost. They organized workshops, mentorship sessions, and creative spaces hoping to ignite passions that lay dormant. And one evening, as Curtis stood at the community center, surrounded by laughter and love, he realized this was only the beginning. In this life, he was no longer just a man striving for financial success, he was a part of something larger, woven into the fabric of a thriving community. The transformation was deep, weaving its way into the very essence of who he was. Through Amara and the children, Curtis found his heart opening in ways he never anticipated. And for each question that had haunted him before, he uncovered beautiful answers. As he left the center one night, the sky glittered with stars, and Curtis felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This journey had taught him that true wealth wasn't measured by the numbers in his bank account, it was found in the lives changed, stories shared, and connections forged. Curtis smiled into the horizon, filled with hope and belonging. This is just the beginning, he whispered into the night. Hope, transformation, and connection awaited a legacy he vowed to nurture forever, and now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe to the channel immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, your support makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let us hear what this journey meant to you, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to help spread the power of connection. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.